Sadly, two special people from our region were laid to rest today. One, a life well lived, another, a life cut way too short. Funerals today for former NYPD Detective Stephen McDonald and, in Mount Vernon, 13-year-old Shamoya McKenzie. Now, Shamoya, she was killed by a stray bullet on New Year's Eve in Mount Vernon. Fox 1's Carolyn Fortino, she was at the funeral this afternoon.
The altar of Macedonia Baptist Church adorned with flowers, a picture of Shamoya, and a basketball jersey with her number 30 on it. The Mount Vernon community saying their final goodbyes to 13-year-old Shamoya McKenzie, the basketball star whose young life was tragically cut short when she was struck in the head by a bullet on her way home from basketball practice on New Year's Eve.
We just have to be strong, no matter, even if you weren't related or anything. It touched everybody because it could be somebody closer to you.
A white casket carried McKenzie into the church, hundreds gathering to pay their final respects. McKenzie was made an honorary member of the Yukon women's basketball team earlier this week, where she had dreamed of going to school. Shamoya's teammate on Mount Vernon's varsity team, Alana Bennett, calling her an inspiration to her peers.
Just a great friend, you know, always made you laugh, always checked on you, always said, you know, okay, you're okay, you need help with this? No? All right, come on, let's go play basketball. You know, that was like her whole demeanor, like, yo, there's always tomorrow.
And those who knew Shamoya well say she touched everyone she met.
My best little girlfriend, Shamoya, she was the first person who took my son to school when he started attending Graham's Elementary. She's such a sweetheart.
She was a nice person. Every time when I came from school, she helped me with my homework.
And at St. Patrick's Cathedral on 5th Avenue, a wall of blue, that for the funeral of NYPD Detective Stephen McDonald. McDonald, he was paralyzed 30 years ago from a bullet fired by a thief in Central Park. But despite that, he became a goodwill ambassador for the department, spreading a message of forgiveness. Well, Fox 1's Cecilia Dowd, she was in Manhattan today, and she joins us now.
Silence descended on 5th Avenue as Detective Stephen McDonald's coffin was carried into St. Patrick's Cathedral. It was as if the bustling city streets somehow whispered to passers-by that someone very special was in their midst, and they obliged.
Thank you so much for showing tribute to my beautiful and amazing father. I never thought this day would come. To me, as to many of you, my father was the real Superman.
That's right, McDonald, not just Superman to son Connor, a sergeant with the NYPD, and wife Patty Ann, the mayor of the village of Malvern. His story inspired countless others.
Stephen kept a pace that would tire even the most able-bodied, speaking several times a month at schools and police precincts, and attending more promotion ceremonies and line-of-duty funerals than anyone else I know.
Sister Teresa Barton, principal of Villa Maria Academy, says when he came to speak at her Bronx school, he always had time for everybody.
He would stay there until the last child had a chance for their picture to be taken with him.
McDonald famously forgave the teen who shot him, leaving him paralyzed from the neck down. McDonald said he never regretted that decision.
He was saint-like. When I think of Stephen, he was saint-like.
McDonald, a devout Catholic, told me in an interview last summer that he believed he was able to live as long as he had because he'd forgiven the teen who shot him.
My dad wanted to make sure his time on earth was not wasted. That is why he was so passionate in spreading God's message of love, compassion, and forgiveness.
And for more, let's bring in our guest, retired NYPD Lieutenant Darren Prochet. And Darren, you knew the late detective, and explain to the public why his name means so much for so many people, not just officers.
Well, it was a very unique situation. We go back to 1986. Detective McDonald was shot in Central Park by a 15-year-old, and he was paralyzed. But he, through some form of, I mean, it was amazing. He had the ability to forgive the person that shot him and left him paralyzed for 30 years. And so we look back at what is human nature. We always want a sense, we always live within a state of retribution. And he was someone that not only traveled the city, but traveled nationally and preached the gospel of, look, you have to have the ability to forgive people in order for us to move forward as a society. If we maintain attached to the wrongdoings that have happened in the past will never be able to advance. And that's why I really tip my hat and salute his service.
And a lot of us can say it, but to actually practice it's something different. Now, the other story, obviously, that tragedy that we've seen play out in Mount Vernon. And yes, we mourn a 13-year-old girl, but she's not the only victim of tragedy in Mount Vernon. To that end, do the people of Mount Vernon deserve better as it relates to policing, and more specifically policing resources to keep them safe?
Absolutely. When we look at the calendar year of 2016, Mount Vernon had 11 homicides. Out of those 11 homicides, only one of those homicides was solved. That homicide consisted of a mother that put her child in the freezer. So people are begging the question of how can we be safe within our society? And so the police commissioner is ultimately responsible for formulating policy and executing accordingly. They've been without a police commissioner now going on 1 year. And one of the questions is, when are you as the mayor going to implement someone that is a subject matter expert that can assist in decreasing the crime that we have in Mount Vernon? And there's a lot of major uproar because when we take into consideration the social contract, for example, the social contract allows us, we give up certain rights to government with the expectation of being helped, so to speak, and they haven't been receiving that from the Mount Vernon PD. And that was one of the things that the mayor ran on. That was a huge platform that he ran on, public safety, keeping the citizens safe. But he's ultimately failed at delivering to those citizens in Mount Vernon.
And again, nobody says he was dealt an easy hand here, but at the same end, nobody wants to also hear about fighting with city councils. They just want to be safe. Darren, thank you as always, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll take a look at some local headlines, so please stay with us.